y'all, good afternoon. Michelle Raza here with the Finding Yourself Book Club. Without further ado, we're going to dive right into Chapter 9 of Lindsay Gibson's Adult Children of Emotionally Immature Parents. Please do check out our site, www.findingyourselfsatx.com. Thanks. Okay. Chapter 9. How it feels to live free of roles and fantasies. In this chapter, we'll explore what life feels like when you stop playing a role in order to relate to an emotionally immature parent. We'll see how new thoughts and actions can help you transcend the emotional loneliness of playing a role as you regain the emotional freedom to truly be yourself. As you'll learn, it can be a struggle to get free, but it's well worth it. Family patterns that may be holding you back. Before we dive into discovering and fostering your true self, let's review some of the family dynamics that keep people trapped in old roles. Discouragement of individuality. If you were raised by an emotionally immature parent, you spend your early years tiptoeing around the anxieties of an emotionally phobic person. The enmeshed families created by such parents are a stronghold against their fear of individuality. A child's individuality is seen as a threat to emotionally insecure and immature parents because it stirs up fears about possible rejection or abandonment. If you think independently, you might criticize them or decide to leave. They feel much safer seeing family members as predictable fantasy characters rather than real individuals. Denial of individual needs and preferences. Parents who keep strict control because of their anxieties often teach their children not only how they should do things, but also how they should feel and think. Children who are internalizers tend to take this instruction to heart and may come to believe that their unique inner experiences have no legitimacy. Such parents teach their children to be ashamed of any aspect of themselves that differs from their parents. In this way, children may come to see their uniqueness and even their strengths as odd and unlovable. Adhering to an internalized parental voice. You may wonder how parents can manage to train a child to go against his or her gut instincts and life-affirming impulses. It occurs through a process I called parent voice internalization. As children, we absorb our parents' opinions and beliefs in the form of an inner voice that keeps up an ongoing commentary that appears to be coming from inside us. Often this voice says things like, you should, you'd better, or you have to. But it may just as frequently make unkind comments about your worth, intelligence, or moral character. Although this commentary sounds like your own voice, it's really an echo of your early caretakers. If you'd like to learn more about this, the book Conquer Your Critical Inner Voice, Firestone, and Catlet 2002 can help you identify where your inner voice comes from and how to free yourself from their negative influence. Freedom to be human and imperfect. Internalized parental voices probably originate in the left hemisphere of the brain, where language and logic rule. While the left brain is allowed to run the show, it puts perfectionism and efficiency before feeling, and judgment before compassion. Without the balance provided by the more personal and intuitive right side of the brain, your left brain will use machine-like equations of right and wrong to size you up. Its moralistic voice will tell you that you're either good or bad, perfect or broken, depending on what you accomplish. This kind of judgmental logic is an aspect of the mental rigidity that accompanies emotional immaturity. Freedom to have your genuine thoughts and feelings. If your childhood thoughts and feelings made your parents uncomfortable, you would have quickly learned to suppress these inner experiences. Knowing your true emotions and thoughts probably felt dangerous if it threatened to distance you from the people you depended on. You learned that your goodness or badness lay not only in your behavior, but in your mind as well. In this way, you may have learned the absurd idea that you can be a bad person for having certain thoughts and feelings, and you may still hold the belief. However, you need access to all your inner experiences without feeling guilty or ashamed of them. Plus, You'll have more energy when you let your thoughts and feelings flow naturally without worrying about what they mean to you. A thought or feeling means nothing more than that you're having a thought or feeling. Regaining the freedom to simply let your thoughts and feelings come and go without condemnation is a profound relief. Freedom to suspend contact. Ideally, you'd probably like to have the freedom to be yourself, yet protect yourself while continuing to relate to your parent. Still, you might find it necessary at times to protect your emotional health by suspending contact for a while. Although this can stir up tremendous guilt and self-doubt, consider the possibility that you may have good reasons for keeping your distance. For example, your parent may be emotionally hurtful or disrespect your boundaries, an intrusive way of relating that impinges upon your right to your own identity. You may want to take a break from dealing with a parent who behaves in this way. Some parents are so unreflective that, despite repeated explanations, they simply don't accept that their behavior is problematic. In addition, some sadistic parents truly are malevolent toward their children and enjoy the pain and frustration they cause. Children of these sorts of parents may decide that suspending contact is the best solution. Just because a person is your biological parent doesn't mean you have to keep an emotional or social tie to that person. Fortunately, you don't need to have an active relationship with your parent to free yourself from their influence. If this weren't so, people wouldn't be able to emotionally separate from parents who live far away or have died. True freedom from unhealthy roles and relationships starts within each of us, not in our interactions and confrontations with others. Freedom to set limits and choose how much to give. While suspending contact is sometimes necessary, some people are able to set limits so effectively that their parents simply don't have an opportunity to do more harm. One way to do this is to take control of how frequently you're in contact with your parents. By setting limits on contacts, you may devote more energy to your own needs for self-care. Your parents may protest when you aren't as generous with your time or attention as you used to be. However, these difficult moments present a priceless opportunity to get over any irrational guilt for having needs of your own. Remember, if you're an internalizer, you'll feel inclined to feel that the answer to any problem is for you to make things better, and that if you try a little harder, the situation, including others' behavior, will improve. It's such a relief to realize this isn't true. More often, internalizers keep trying harder and externalizers keep taking advantage of this. Remember, your goodness as a person isn't based on how much you give in relationships, and it isn't selfish to set limits on people who keep on taking. Your job is to take care of yourself, regardless of what others think you should be doing for them. Paying attention to subtle energy drains from other people can help you realize when you're giving too much. Even in minor encounters, you can adjust how much you give so you won't be exhausted by trying to fulfill others' needs. I recommend using the maturity awareness mindset to observe how your parents react when you ask them to respect your boundaries. Notice whether they try to make you feel ashamed and guilty, as if they have a right to do whatever they want, regardless of how it affects you. Freedom to have self-compassion. In order to take care of yourself, I'm checking to see how long this chapter is. Okay. In order to take care of yourself, you need to feel compassion for yourself. Knowing your own feelings and having sympathy for yourself are two basic building blocks of strong individuality. Only if you have self-compassion will you know when to set limits or stop giving excessively. Freedom from excessive empathy. Internalizers are so emotionally sensitive that they can go overboard in feeling empathy for other people's problems or what they imagine other people's suffering to be. Sometimes they end up feeling worse about another person's situation than the other person does. With healthy empathy, on the other hand, you can have compassion without losing awareness of your own limits. Freedom to take action on your own behalf. Growing up with emotionally immature parents may have caused you to feel helpless, both as a child and as an adult. Their lack of emotional attentiveness can make it feel as though what you want doesn't matter. You may have been convinced that all you could do was wait until someone felt like giving you what you need. It's important to realize that childhood experiences of profound helplessness can feel traumatic, causing people to later react to adult feelings of helplessness with sensations of collapse and a feeling of there's nothing I can do and no one will help me. As children, sensitive internalizers can be so affected by this feeling that later they're prone to feeling like victims with no control, at the mercy of powerful people who refuse to give them what they desperately need. Freedom to express yourself. Expressing yourself with emotionally immature people is an important act of self-affirmation, one that implicitly stakes your claim to exist as an individual, with your own feelings and thoughts. Remember, an important step in the maturity awareness approach is expressing yourself and then letting go. It's important to relinquish the belief that if your parents loved you, they'd understand you. As an independent adult, you can function without their understanding. You may not ever have the kind of relationship you've wanted with your parents, but you can make each interaction with them more satisfying for you. You can speak up politely if you feel like it, and be different without offering excuses. By expressing yourself to your parents in this way, you can be authentic, even in the absence of their understanding. The point of expressing your feelings is to be true to yourself, not to change your parents. And there's always the likelihood that they can still love you, even if they don't get you at all. Freedom to approach old relationships in new ways. Like Carissa and Holly, you can interact with your parents in new ways that shake up old patterns and keep the focus on the outcome you're seeking. By taking it one interaction at a time, you can experiment with setting aside any unrealistic desires for genuine emotional connection or support from your parents. You aren't denying your past, you're just accepting your parents as they are, without expectations. Freedom to not want anything from your parent. The most painful interactions with emotionally immature parents occur when their children need something from them. Whether it's attention, love, or communication, many neglected children continue to seek some kind of positive emotional regard from their parents well into adulthood, even though their parents aren't the giving type. Emotionally immature parents commonly promote the myth that parents are the only source of their children's well-being and self-esteem. Many self-involved parents like it when their child is needy and they can be the center of the child's longing. Witnessing their child's dependency makes them feel secure and in control. If the child goes along with this, the parents gain the power to completely control the child's emotional state. Summary. This chapter explored how it feels to break free from roles and expectations designed to please emotionally immature parents. Although you may have learned to reject yourself thanks to an overly critical inner voice that expects perfection, you can reclaim your true self and genuine thoughts and feelings, regardless of other people's reactions. You can claim the freedom to express yourself and take action on your own behalf. You're free to extend compassion to yourself and even grieve what you've lost as a result of having emotionally immature parents. You know that your first job is your own self-care, including setting limits on how much you give, even to the point of suspending contact with your parents if necessary. You no longer have to exhaust yourself with excessive empathy for other people. In addition, you're likely to find that your relationship with your parents becomes more tolerable as you relinquish the need for their emotional acceptance. And as you shed your old family role, you can relate to your parents more honestly without needing them to change. In the next chapter, which is the final chapter of the book, we'll take a look at how you can use the maturity awareness approach to find more emotionally mature friends and partners. I'll also offer some pointers on developing new attitudes and values that will promote the possibility of more rewarding and reciprocal relationships in the future.